I'm getting ready to do another driving experience in my 2023 Ioniq 6 Limited with the 18-inch wheels that I bought aftermarket and higher sidewall tires to increase range. This is a 500-mile drive, and my goal is to see if I can add enough extra range to get to my destination, which is back here, honestly. With less than 25 minutes of total charging, two, maybe 12-minute stops. I'm in Florida. The garage temperature was 80 degrees heat from yesterday, so the battery should be plenty warm. Although thankfully this morning it is currently only 67 degrees, so we probably won't need to run the heat or air conditioning for a while. But unfortunately, it'll be 91 later today, so at some point we'll have to turn on the air conditioning, and I'll give you a couple of charging updates as we go. But just wanted to show an example of a 500-mile drive, which will probably take, I don't know, about 9 hours, maybe a little less, and hopefully 25 minutes or less of total time plugged in and charging. And let's see if we can make it happen. We, of course, left from the Orlando area and headed south. And the first leg of our trip went very well. We live only a couple miles from the highway, so this is mostly highway driving at reasonable speeds, kind of going with the flow of the traffic, maybe a little bit above to maybe too much above the posted speed limit, depending on what the traffic was doing. So I'm not trying to particularly game the driving speed. Maybe I'm gaming the charging time a little bit. I'll explain that here in a minute. But our first stop was after three and a half hours of driving, 208 miles. So, I think that works out to about 60 miles per hour, because 3 hours would be 180 plus another 30. Yeah, so about 60 mile per hour average. A few slowdowns, and like I said, a couple of miles at the beginning to get to the highway, and then a couple of miles after we got off the highway to get to the charger. But one of my favorite chargers, and it's from FPL, Florida Power and Light, and it's I think it's near a city called Del Rey. And the nice thing about it is that there's usually not that many people there. There's 4 chargers. The one I plugged, there was 3 people there. I went to the 4th one, couldn't get it to activate. And then all 3 cars left within a minute of each other while I was messing with the one charger. And I just moved to another one, plugged in, and it worked right away. Word of caution with Florida Power and Light, they have 2 apps that you can get, one for your house and one for charging your car. So you have to make sure that you have the right one. And of course, if you've got your credit card set up and installed in advance, it really works quite well. This was 30 cents per kilowatt hour. And Florida Power and Light, of course, is all over Florida, except for around Orlando and north and west of Orlando, because that is Duke Energy area. So they don't have Florida Power and Light chargers in Duke Energy locations. Could have gone farther. As you can see, I have 60 miles of range left. So we could have gone something close to 260, 270, 280 maybe, depending on the speed, if you've gone a little slower. And there were chargers a little farther down the road that I could have gone to, so that I didn't arrive with just 24%, but maybe 12 or 10 or 15 or 5%. Of course, now, that's not normal human driving. That's YouTuber driving to get to the maximum, the minimum absolute state of charge and the farthest distance. And the reason one could do that is that the charging curve, the speed that you can charge is faster, the lower the battery state of charge is. So in this case, the machines were rated at 240 kilowatt. I don't think I ever got over 230. So teeny weeny little bit slower than I could have charged. But, it went really well. I tried to make a video and get some other pictures of the screen, but it was super bright. So just for a moment, I got cloud cover
and got the picture that I have here that shows it's just shy of 230 kilowatt for a rate of charge, but perfectly fine. I took pictures of the ending screen, but like I said, there was so much light that the reflection on the screen made it impossible to see in a photograph, so I'm sorry about that. But we were there for 11 minutes, and in 11 minutes, we were able to go from 24% to 69% state of charge, and that was more than enough to get us all the way to Fort Lauderdale. And we got there and walked around the city for half an hour, and went and saw The Princess Bride. You remember that movie, The Princess Bride? So we got to see it on the big screen with a whole bunch of fans. I mean, I think this place holds more than 2,000 people where we went to. And after watching the movie, there was a question and answer session, a little mini interview with Wesley. Carrie Elwes was there in person, and this is almost 60 years after the movie. And boy, I hope to look as good as he did. He was actually in Miami working on a movie or a TV show, I'm not sure which, but he came up to Fort Lauderdale to be interviewed and be on stage. So it was a hoot. And of course, when we were done, we drove back north. And again, I had a choice. I could pull up a little conservative, which is what I decided to do, and stopped in an area called Port St. Lucie. Now, the reason I like to stop there is there's like 3 or 4 different locations, all within a couple of miles of each other, from different charging providers and with multiple towers. So if one tower doesn't work, there's other towers. If that whole station is down, there's another station. If that's right. So it's all these redundancies that are being built in that make it a lot easier. But we pulled into the Electrify America at a Walmart and pulled up, plugged in, bang, zoom. No problems at all. No problem with the first charge, no problem with the second charge. And here again, we were there. I waited and just until the screen said 11 minutes. Unfortunately, that picture was a little blurry, so I just put the picture here showing 10 minutes, but I was actually there for 11 minutes. And again, if I had gone a little farther north, there was a Pilot Flying J north on the very southern end of the Florida Turnpike before it intertwines with I-95. And that would have been another 40 miles. And I had the range to do it. But the problem there is that if for some reason that location doesn't work, now you've got to go to another place that's not as far as not as close as the Port St. Lucie area. So I like to have that built-in redundancy. Even if I could have saved a minute in charging time, I don't want to deal with that. So there were things that I could have done, like, for example, driving south. If I had gone farther, instead of charging from 24 to 69, I could have charged from 4 to 50% and maybe saved 2 minutes of charging time. And then the second charge, if I had driven farther going north, maybe I could have saved 2 minutes also there. But now you're really, really playing with the system and you're not driving like a normal person. So I didn't want to get that too crazy. Also, on the second charge, we ended up having probably 50 or 60 miles of range. Well, we were expecting to have 50 or 60 miles of range upon our arrival back at the house, and found out, thank you to Google Maps, that a stretch of the Florida Turnpike was closed. And they're adding lanes or doing repair work and just like flat out closed a section of the road. I don't know if there was a very convenient way to get off and take side roads. I'm sure there were some detour signs. And that actually might have helped my driving performance because we have been going on local roads at slower speeds. But because we had stopped earlier and was able to see that road was closed, we just took 95 up along the coast, which added only about 12 minutes to our drive based on what it was supposed to be, but it added 20 miles of range. or 20 miles of extra distance that we had to drive. So another reason to not get your percentage so darn low that you just barely squeak in, because if there's a problem or something changes, you want to have that extra flexibility. So in the end, we had, when we got to the house, still about 40 miles of range left over. So I could have charged for another minute or two less. So theoretically, I could have charged 6 minutes less than the total of 22 that I charged. When I did this previously with the bigger wheels, the 20-inch wheels and low-profile tires, it took me, I don't know, give or take 28 to 30 minutes of charging. So this seems to fit the narrative of some tests that I've done where the smaller wheels, and to be fair, the wheel/rim that I bought the lightest one that I could find. It's like 18 pounds, not 32 pounds, like the original 20-inch. And I got some of the lightest EV-rated tires that were available. And so I was really going for weight. I could have saved a few more pounds on the wheels if I spent like $1,000 a wheel, but I wasn't doing that. So with the new lighter wheel and tire, local driving, I get about 20 to 25% more range, and highway driving, I get 15 to 20% more range. So that's just something for you to think about. If you're curious about that, I do have a video on the changing from the 20-inch to the 18-inch wheels. Of course, you could put a comment below, and if I happen to see it, I'll try to answer questions. But yeah, just another example, 500 miles, starting with 100% battery in the 2023 Ioniq 6 rear-wheel drive version, only the rear-wheel drive because you get more range, where I had aftermarket, lighter, smaller wheels, same size tire diameter and circumference, so it doesn't mess up the speedometer or the odometer. And here was a case where we went 490 miles. I was thinking we'd get really close to 500, but 490 is pretty darn close. Total charging time was 2 11-minute stops, total of 22 minutes. Theoretically, you could do it 6 minutes less if you really, really wanted to push it and be adventurous, but I didn't want to. So I charged it like a normal human being. You know, you get down around 20%, you stop somewhere where there's multiple options, locations you can charge. And then I did end the charges short around 70%, 69 the first time and 70% the second time, because going from 70 to 80 is a little slower. Not a lot slower, but a little slower. But going from 80 to 90 is considerably slower, and going from 90 to 100 could take 20 minutes just by itself. So you don't want to get past 80. If you want to save a couple of minutes on your long drive, stopping at 70% and then maybe charging a little more frequently could save you a couple of minutes of charging. But that's just some information on how to drive 500 miles under 25 minutes. That was my goal, under 25 minutes of total charging time. 2 quick and easy stops. Again, with a little bit of traffic, 500 miles, we're talking 8 or 9 hours of driving, maybe 8, with 2 stops over 8 hours. Not so bad. I mean, this is really, really close to parity of driving a gasoline car, because you could drive through and get food and then charge while you're eating, or you could plug in the car and go in and get food. Or the second time what we did was we charged because it was only 11 minutes. We then went to Five Guys and had, a nice burger and fries after the car was already charged. So we weren't in a race, right? So we're just trying to drive the car like normal people, and it's really, really close to parity of driving a gasoline car if you get the right electric car. So hopefully this helps you understand how to drive an electric car.